go ahead with your opening. A number of people lined up in the queue.
Yep. Good to see everybody. Postseason basketball, it's here. It's March, exciting time of year. Obviously had one of the great evenings, days in my basketball life. And I hope that was felt by many. But Sunday was a day that a lot of emotions both ways, and it's why we play 20 games, and then we total them up at the end, and we see where we land and where we fall, and it's what happens when everybody's playing, and it's an exceptional league, and very, very proud of our locker room. Very excited for our fans, but it goes beyond that. It's our university, it's our community. It's our state. It was really fun to see tears of joy. 55, 60-year-old people on the floor in tears, feeling that excitement. So now we put that one to rest. We put it behind us, and we move forward with the Big Ten tournament, and a tournament that is obviously one of the most competitive, top to bottom fields and tournaments in the country. There's no easy games. There's great opponents. It's a great atmosphere. Indianapolis is a great host, and so it's exciting. We'll figure out who we play and here after tomorrow, and hopefully we're going to show up and play our tail off and play really hard.
Brad, the outside perception of Michigan and Indiana is that they're big men-dominated programs. Is that your perception? Does it help scout whichever team you do wind up playing?
Well, I mean, we just played Michigan, so that'll be fairly fresh. Indiana's, was a little while ago, but I think they're programs with great players. They're historic programs, and they're programs that have, are always good. They've always got good players, good coaches, and their challenges. So, whatever their personnel, the postseason play is about getting hot. It's about playing with an edge. It's about playing hard, and you're going to have to do that no matter who you play.
Does freshness mean you'd rather avoid Michigan or you'd rather play Michigan?
Oh, it doesn't matter. We got no choice. So it doesn't. I've got no preference either way. And we've got to be us, and we've got to go out and do what we do to be able to win games in this tournament.
Thanks.
Hi, Coach. You won this tournament last year. I know you want to win it again, but how much of an eye do you have on improving your seeding for the NCAA tournament? And have you taken a look at the net rankings yet?
I haven't. I haven't looked at net. I know we've been hovering around 15, but I haven't checked in a couple of weeks, to be honest. I want to win the tournament. I want to see if I'd love to put back-to-back on something. And, we're not going in this, and you guys know me, we're never going to not play hard and to trying to not win. And along the lines, if that helps seeding, great. I got to think that there's probably only so high we can go at this point. And you've had a pretty solid group, I think, ahead, but I don't know. Those for somebody else to determine. We've obviously got unique circumstances in some cases. I mean, we lost a couple of games without Kofi. Curbello's back and healthy. And I mean, we'd be hard pressed to find, more games missed than some of our guys have had. So, what consideration that takes, I don't know, but, it's, that's not for me to determine. All we're going to do is I'm going to control what I can control. And that's hopefully the guys wearing the uniforms and go out and play hard.
Any update on Jake?
He's getting better. getting better. Yeah, we'll see. They're getting better. I mean, he was running around in practice gear today, and you know, he was not in practice, but getting fitted for the right, I don't know, whatever stuff those trainers put him in, but you know, something like Trent, I'm sure.
Thanks, Coach.
Brad, how do you best sum up the regular season now that it was put to bed? You guys had to fight through a lot of adversity with injuries, COVID, suspensions, but in the end, got what you guys ultimately wanted, which was a Big Ten title.
Yeah, I think it was one of perseverance. I think it was one of toughness. I think it was gritty. It was sure not easy. Nothing is easy in this league. I don't care who you've got in uniform. It's not easy. You know, I think it's hard winning on the road, you know, going 7-3. I'm excited by that. We've had a, you know, very, very challenging month of February. And yet I think we've continued to improve. And, you know, it's why I said you always have to play them all and see where you end up. And to be at the top of this league is special. It means a lot. And that's a goal. And, you know, I'm happy for the locker room, and those guys have worked really hard to achieve that.
And as far as expectations, you guys have had very lofty expectations for yourselves all season. Does that ramp up, or do you feel that more of that weight on your shoulders, or see the team deal with that more now that we're in the win and go home part of the year?
No, I think I think we've got our program to a point where we understand you know, we're kind of the hunted, and, you know, we've had to deal with that. We spent a lot of the year in first or close to it. So, you know, we saw a lot of people's best games, and so I think there's no pressure. I think it's just us going out and playing extremely hard and being extremely focused and understanding that, you know, we've got nobody to blame if we don't play hard.
Thanks, Brad.
Hey, Coach, you've spoken a couple of times about how tough the month of February was. And when you look at some of the teams you played, they were teams in the top half of the Big Ten. Not taking anything away from those teams at the bottom half of the Big Ten, but playing the teams that are competing for a Big Ten championship and likely to go farther in the NCAA tournament. Is that a good thing for you guys before the Big Ten tournament?
I don't know. We did it last year. You know, we had, you know, some different circumstances because of COVID, but, you know, I mean, you look at that stretch where you know, you're at Indiana, you're at Purdue, you're at Rutgers, you're at Michigan State, you're at Michigan. You know, I looked at that in August and, you know, like, man, that's pretty daunting. And, but that was February. And I think it makes you better. I think that's the way I look at it. I think it prepares you, and all those are incredible venues with really good teams and really good players. And, you know, if you slip in any of those games, you get beat. And I think there's lessons to be learned in all of that.
And then last week, you spoke a lot about how you guys carried yourself with a chip on your shoulder and energy going into the Big Ten tournament because you wanted to prove that you were the best team in the league. Are you trying to replicate that mindset, or are you trying to just kind of go in here with the same kind of attitude that you've had for the last couple of months?
I think we're going the same way. We're trying to be even keel. We're trying to have the mindset that we're playing really good teams, and we've got to do what we do. We've got to play really hard. And it's kind of the same approach that we had down the stretch this year, is just, let's just go play really hard. You know, we didn't play great against Iowa. You know, watch film, we didn't play great. But we did play really hard. And, you know, we've got to bank on our effort being something that helps us get over the top.
Thanks, Coach.
Brad, it seems to me that winning a Big Ten conference title is as difficult, if not more difficult, than winning an NCAA tournament over the grind of a 20-game season. Do you think it will be appreciated well down the road, no matter what happens here in March for you?
Absolutely. I think when you hang banners and you put up accomplishments of like that, those become teams that are honored. Those become teams that have 10-year reunions, 20-year reunions, not to take celebrated, and they're celebrated for, especially at Illinois, they're celebrated for life. I mean, we all hear about the 89 Flying Illini, and we hear about all the championships, but when you hang banners, that's pretty special. And you know, it's what makes this program great.
Thanks a lot, Brad.
Brad, how do you, to turn the page from such an emotional game on Sunday, an emotional atmosphere, is that something you do? Is that something led by, you know, Trent, DeMonte, Kofi? How do you guys go about doing that? Because we talked a lot about how that kind of maybe bit you guys a little bit in the NCAA tournament last year.
Yeah, experience helps. So those guys know. Those guys know what a bad feeling that was. They know, you know, they don't deny that, you know, that Tuesday when we practiced, or Monday, whatever, I don't even know what day it was a bad practice before the NCAA tournament. Yeah, it's got to be, you know, we addressed it in the summer, and yeah, and that's why, you know, I think we're trying to take a more even keel approach, and you know, it is a tournament. It's 3 games in 3 days to win it, and for us, and you know, you've got to bring your best every night, and we celebrate winning. There's no doubt about that. It's an important part of our program. But you know, it's all, you know, just getting refocused. This year was different. I mean, we could actually celebrate that win. We got to put that one to bed. You know, last year we never left. We were stuck in quarantine. We were isolated individually. This year we actually got to celebrate it and have a moment, have a staff, you know, get together and have, you know, and then have a day off but celebrate and put it to bed. And then, you know, Tuesday morning, here we are, you know, we're back at the grind. It's on to something new. And that's been our approach.
Yeah, I'm curious, like last year when you guys left for Indy, it was, we're going to be there until, you know, could have been a month for, you know, for however long you guys went. Is it different this year having those, you know, you're going to be there for, you know, maybe 3 or 4 days, and you can block up these trips, you know, have another bus trip or a flight trip,
Huge.
however.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. You know, it sounded like a great idea, you know, when the NCAA tournament moved to one site, but actually living it and living in quarantine and isolation and never going outside, that wasn't great. That wasn't great. And but you know, we never got to enjoy the Big Ten tournament championship. You know, it was we were whisked off after the locker room and put in, you know, given a Chick-fil-A sandwich and put in quarantine. And, you know, for that whole next day, we were 24 hours. We didn't see anybody, and we just sat in our room and got a knock on the door and met your meal was there. And, you know, until 11 o'clock that next Tuesday, you know, when we practiced, we hadn't seen each other. So we never got to celebrate and enjoy that moment. And this year was different because we got to put a final touch on it.
Sorry, one more if I could. Do you have any expectation that Jake will be available at any time between now and Sunday?
He was in practice today, so we'll see. Yeah,
Thank you.
we'll see what that means. We're not going to do anything to jeopardize him one way or another. We want to make sure he's healthy for the NCAA tournament.
Thanks, Brad.
Hey, Brad, I mean, this is the 3rd trip to Indy in 3 years for this week, all sort of under wildly different circumstances. What's kind of the feeling going back now where, you know, it's not like last year, and, you know, hopefully it's not like the year before that?
Another place to play. To me, it's that simple. It's where the tournament's at. We've got to go play. I think it's nice, the fact that this will be very different from the standpoint we'll have fans. And it was so cool last year in Lucas Oil, the fans we had there, because there was a ton of orange and blue, and it was the first time they saw us. This year's NCAA tournament experience as well will be much different, just from the standpoint that there'll be fans. But, you know, we're going to play in front of a packed house, you know, this weekend in the Big Ten tournament. It's what makes it unique and fun. And that's the biggest difference.
This is an entirely different subject, but 2 of the last 3 home games have been alleged incidents between fans and opposing players. And I mean, there's nothing you can maybe do in the moment, but are you concerned that it's kind of been a trend in the last few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, we've got a very, very good fan base. We got a passionate fan base, and they're the best in the country. And yet we want to do things with, a certain level of class. Our program, we've had contact with the Murrays, and that was, we don't ever want to cross a line. For the most part, it's a few individuals. It happens way too often. We saw a fight break out last night in NCAA conference tournament. It's becoming too common, and our program has to be way above that. And I don't want the Murrays or anybody at Iowa or anybody else to think that, but it's, I think that it's can't be taken too far, and that and some of those comments we're taking it too far, and we can't be that. We're better than that. We're the University of Illinois, and we want them to be passionate and have fun. The university, the athletic departments put out a big deal on social media, and what our players receive in social media is 100 times worse than stuff that gets said in our arena. And we talk to our players about ignoring that and not listening. But the social media stuff is every bit as bad, if not worse. And I'm sorry for the Murrays that they had to experience that in our building. But again, it's something that we'll continue to address as we move into home games next year.
Thank you.
And Brad, I'm just going to ask about Coleman. I know kind of a couple weeks ago, you kind of talked about kind of wanting to, I guess, get rid of, I think it was the term was kind of the angst out of his game, I guess. And it seems like he's been kind of resilient coming in for Jake and coming in cold against Penn State. How has he kind of improved in that area, and how much has that kind of meant to you guys over the last couple of days?
Well, I think his talent's shown. I think we're starting to see that that just tremendous energy with which he plays with, and he cares so deeply about winning, and he's an instinctive player. He's made some blocks this year that are just crazy good and important. And whether it's I keep telling everybody he's a great shooter. He didn't even hesitate on the pick and pop three. And he hits a little floater, and he just knows how to make winning plays. And now we're starting to see that confidence help elevate his game, and he's a big piece of what we're doing.
Yeah, and I guess it seems like you guys have kind of gone through almost every lineup imaginable with all kind of injuries and I guess COVID. I mean, kind of playing and kind of having to test different lineups out of necessity, does that kind of help you or lend itself to any advantages this time of year?
I hope. I mix our lineups up in practice. The only day that I ever run the starters together is actually the day before. So I mix the lineups up on purpose with that intent. And I want everybody to feel comfortable no matter who's out there with them. And but I think that's happened this year. I usually like to have a pretty set pattern because of the injuries. I've had not even close to that. So, but there's been some positives come out of that.
Thanks, Brad.
Brad, on the defensive end of the floor, go back to the last 9 minutes against Iowa, and you held them to 2 field goals. Is that starting to turn on at the right time for you guys on that end of the floor?
I sure hope so, because the 11 of 12 streak
Right.
that Iowa was on before that, I've said it all year. The one thing we miss about Andre Curbelo, elite defender. elite defender. Not good, elite defender. Hardly ever gets screened. He's one of the most instinctive players that I've ever coached. And, you know, he's a great defensive rebounder. Continues to add to that piece, as does RJ Melendez. And, you know, I had RJ in at the end of the game. And, you know, those guys have great instincts and great athleticism and length. And, you know, so it was a very comfortable stretch for me with those guys on the court.
Probably a better question for Joey Biggs, but do you know where you're practicing when you go to Indy? Is it Hinkle again, or do you go find a, you know, IUPUI gym or something like that?
I think we're at Hinkle.
Okay.
Brad, you lost your best player, your leader in Nioh last year, and you still find yourself here winning the Big Ten regular season tournament and preparing to defend your title in the Big Ten tournament. Who or what about your team this year allowed you to not only rebound from losing Nioh, but also kind of almost improve and win a Big Ten regular season title instead of, you know, falling short last year?
Well, I'll disagree with you that we fell short in terms of the banner we did. But when you win 16 games in this league, you know, some technicality in my mind is not going to define the fact that we played every game and had a lot of success. But all the credit goes to the guys in the locker room. Because, you know, you lose Nioh, great player. You know, we had, you know, Georgie Declare, we had, you know, Ace leave. You've got to have sustainability in your locker room based on character. And yeah, you've got to have good players, but you don't do that without culture, without an understanding of what it takes to win. And, you know, culture is a word that's thrown out a lot, but we have a really good culture and we have really good players. And so I think it's a combination of all that. We withstand the losses and, you know, put ourselves in a position to just be, you know, right back where we were. So, you know, I think there's a lot of credit that goes to the character in the locker room.
Right. So a lot of the character guys that have been in the program for a long time, like Trent, DeMonte, etc. It's those guys who are kind of, you know, beyond their on-court contributions. They're the guys that help, you know,
They lead.
success
Yeah, they
forward.
lead. And I said it 100 times my first 2 years. You know, if I have to continually lead every single day, we're not going to be very good because then I can't coach. And those guys set a standard. And it's, you know, truth be told, it's why they came back, was to make a deeper run and do great things. And, you know, their standard is what they pass on to their teammates and they rally around. And, you know, that's again, goes to the character of those guys.
Thank you.
Hey, Brad, apologies for getting a little ahead of myself, but I don't want to ask you this in the middle of the postseason. The fans were chanting one more year with Kofi, and usually for a two-time All-American, that'd be pretty unrealistic. But how much has NIL and the current state of college athletics changed decisions for a guy like him, Oscar Tshiebwe, and guys like that?
I think it impacts it a dramatic amount. I think that there's, you know, we have zero control over what their perception is at the next level, so to speak. But now we have a way that maybe enhances their situation as a college student athlete through NIL that can be a much better option than potentially the G League or the European model. And, you know, along the way that enhances guys' opportunities. You know, Kofi in his situation is very, very close to graduating. And, you know, so it continues to enhance those situations for the student athlete and not just a dollar and cents way, but also an academic way. And that's been a really positive. Anytime we've got something out there that helps keep student athletes in school, it's a really good thing.
Yeah, and I know, Brad, you got to let him make his own decision. Is there anything different? I know you guys can't set up anything with NIL and that, but what are your conversations like with Kofi as he goes through that in the future?
None yet. I don't know. I haven't thought a whole bunch about any of that yet. There'll be a time and a place. There'll be a time and a place. And right now, I know he's, he got 4 miles on the treadmill after practice yesterday. I mean, his focus is pretty much, let's go win a tournament.
Understood. Thanks, Brad.
Oh, hey, Coach. Good morning.
Good morning.
You touched earlier on, the difference in celebration between the banner last year and the banner this year. Obviously, the world being very different, but in terms of a basketball standpoint, a basketball accomplishment, just what are your general feelings of what it was like to win a Big Ten regular season crown versus the Big Ten tournament?
The conference play is such a mental grind. It is a marathon. The Big Ten tournament is a sprint, and and you got to play great to win it. You do. We had unbelievable game with Ohio State last year in the championship. But you truly don't go through the ebbs and flows of 2 early December games when you're not playing very well and you still don't know who you are, to, man, I got a back-to-back, and, it's in West Lafayette and in East Lansing, it's just a mental, it's a mental grind. So to me, we talk about a lot winning the 10, and we want to do that because I think it shows some toughness and some grit and perseverance, and everything that happens from sickness to an injury. You have to deal with all that over the course of those months.
And I remember talking to you at the first, or one of the first Illinois Athletic Hall of Fame Gala. I think it was the first one in 2017. You discussed the program getting its swagger back right around the time the all-time AP poll came out, and Illinois was ranked number 11. So you got 2 conference titles. You had a 1 seed last year. Obviously, still waiting for a deep run in the NCAA tournament. But what defines getting swagger back? Do you feel like it's getting close? Is it there?
Yeah, we're getting there. I think the crowds that we get, the attitude of the people that come to the games, you guys, the way you look at us, I think that the way that the league looks at us, the way that the recruits look at us, I can't control all of those situations, obviously, but I think it's the way that you guys and everybody else just kind of perceives our program. And when you win, I get it. People want to be associated with winners. That's human nature. That's life in every aspect. If you're in the real estate business, you're not going to go with a crappy realtor. You're going to go with one that sells houses, and it's just life. And so I think that it's our perception has changed. We've done it with packed houses. We've done it with the remodel of Ubben practice facility. We've done it with Io DeSumo and his, so I think it's just, it's a lot of things. And with that, gives you and your program and everybody involved in your program and around your program a shot of confidence and swagger.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Morning, Brad. Maybe we'll finish this where you started it, with a reference to 55 to 60-year-olds crying after the Iowa game. You don't need to tell me that you fall squarely into that age range. Are you the crier in this story? And if so, what brought it out?
Yeah, I've always been emotional. You can go back to, people don't realize how much they impact our lives and my life. And, you know, I'll still never forget Thomas Walkup's last game and sitting on that podium. And, you know, and it's no different with Trent. It's that way every year. And you see these guys, and they call it boys basketball in high school for a reason, and men's in college, because it's that transformation, and you see them grow up. I mean, just look back at a picture with Trent and that god awful ugly blonde hair he had, and you know, all those little things, and you go through so many things with them, good and bad, and you try to help mold them. And man, I get very emotional, you know. And I mean, I'll give you an example. I was watching I didn't pay one lick of attention to the Coach K stuff until the game. And I sat there and I'm watching the post game. And my wife looked over and she goes, "You're crying." And I don't know Coach K like that. I don't. And I said, yeah. I said, this is so rare. This is over. This may never, ever, ever happen again. And I said, a coach is celebrated for his career. And I said, to me, that's really sad. That's where we've gotten to. You know, that doesn't happen. We all get fired and we move on. And it's just, thank you for what you've done. And to me, man, that's not what this is about. We watched Trent Frazier grow up, DeMonte Williams, and we tell the stories but if we don't win enough games, we get fired. And that's, to me, seeing a moment like that with Coach K, that to me, that's why I originally got into this, you know, is to just see people grow and use basketball as a tool. And so that's where my emotion comes from. I'm very emotional that way.
Appreciate that.
Brad, if I could have a little fun with the last one, now that you guys can exist out of a hotel room in Indianapolis, what is the go-to or recommended order for St. Elmo's?
Well, there'll be a whole lot of shrimp cocktail to start with. There will be a very good glass of I'll figure it out when I get there, of Cabernet. And then I'm just kind of I'll probably go filet tonight. I think I haven't had a steak in a while, and wedge salad, and we'll have a nice dinner. Be fun.
Thanks, Brad.
All right, that'll wrap us up. Thanks, everybody.